Vinyl community, I'm back to do a very special video, and sorry, and this time I think I'm gonna show you some record, but it's gonna be mostly me talking. This is probably one of the hardest videos that I have ever done, but I feel in a way that I need to do it, or I really want to do it. I don't need to do anything, but so yeah, I've talked a little bit about it in recent videos or events, but I wanted to share this sort of experience, and also first and foremost honor the person behind it that I'm going to talk about. It's like this: I had a friend and a co-worker who passed away this beginning of April. His name was Lars Brink, but everyone called him Lasse. So I've been working at my job now for almost 7 years, I think it is. Yeah, pushing towards 7 years, and I've been a co-worker with Lasse since. Backing the tape a little bit, I know his family, especially his brother, or I know his brother from different sort of, we have similar relatives and friends, and we have spent a lot of time going to these sort of beer events because we are deeply into beer, and we have seen each other and known about each other, talked about beer and just life in general for many years before I met Lasse. So I worked with this guy for almost 7 years, 7 years, and we hit it off right away. I mean, when I started work at the workplace I'm at now, he was the only one who was interested in records. But not only that, he was interested in music, in records, but also in hi-fi, maybe especially in hi-fi and sort of gear. At the time that I got to know him, in the beginning, he didn't have a proper sort of hi-fi setup for different reasons. And he had a CD and a CD player and a bunch of CDs that he has gathered probably 20 years or something like that. Yeah, even more, probably much more, but yeah, fuck it. So we started hanging out, going to different events, hi-fi stores, record stores, and he started to save up to his sort of dream hi-fi setup. Not dream, but the one that he really could afford and that was sort of reachable to him. So during these years I was with him when he bought most of the equipment and a lot of the records also, because he got deep into vinyl records. So I spent 5 days a week with this guy, 9 hours a day, talking about music and records in general. So we got really close, and just in start of this April, his heart stopped. His heart couldn't take more. He was overweight and he had some problems with his lungs, and yeah, his heart just stopped at a fucking parking lot, grocery shopping. So 55 years old he got to be, and it sucks, like really sucks, and this happens every day. I know, like people die and people's lives change, and I mean, I'm not a relative, I'm not family, I was a pretty close friend to him, so I was so like my heart was really shattered when thinking about his family, and he lived with his father at the end. He didn't have a wife or kids or anything. He lived with his father, and no father should see their son go before them, not especially not when you're up against your like 80s, that his father is. Fantastic family, lovely family. So super bummed out. Now it was a great funeral. They played fantastic music that I know Lasse would have loved. Picked by his closest friends and his brother. And yeah, it was a really beautiful ceremony. And I've stayed close with the family ever since, and I've tried to help them as much as I could or can. And maybe I'm the one who knows his sort of hi-fi equipment and records the best, because I've been with him when he bought most of it. Because during the years he started off by investing in a really good tube amp, and then he went on to invest in speakers, great speakers. He had a fantastic CD player, really good, an Ion CD player, but it didn't work properly. He tried to repair it, but they couldn't do it. So he also bought a new really good CD player. He had he got himself a great turntable with I think it's called HANA cartridge, HANA SL or something like that. So as you hear, he had I mean, it's not a super expensive sort of setup if you look at what people put down on their equipment, but he really had to save up to get these sort of things, and he didn't. He was a great believer in good sort of cables and stuff like that, like speaker cables and RCA cables and stuff like that. So he didn't sort of cheap out on those things or components as well. And most of it he bought used, because that's the way to go, in my opinion. With hi-fi stuff, it's worth maybe half when it's used. So anyway, so to the story. I helped the family on getting in touch with the store that he had bought not all, but most of the stuff. He was very loyal to a store, a little bit expensive, more expensive, but he had a good talk with them every time we went there, and he went there with his other hi-fi friends. So yeah, they hit it off, and he bought a lot of stuff from them. So I got in contact with them for sake of the family and asked them to give sort of estimate of value on each of the components that he had. I took pictures, I sent them over, and as I said, most of the stuff he had bought there, like the CD player, and I think the cartridge and the receiver, I think the receiver also, and a streamer and stuff like that, a lot of cords. So I mean, they knew what he had, and he was a loyal customer. Now the family was grateful, but at the end, this store, even if they said that he was a fantastic and loyal customer, they, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, but they tried to rip the family off by giving them one sum for the entire thing, and that is maybe, in my opinion, 25-30% of its value out to customer. I mean, I get it. You have to make money on the stuff that you sell, but Christ, I mean, come on, shit. You don't have to make 70%. So I was really bummed out and super disappointed, and the family was also devastated when they saw the sort of because they aren't stupid. They know that this stuff is worth some money. So I took the weekend and I researched, went out on Hi-Fi Shark and other like more like Swedish stores, but also I looked a lot at German stores and stores in Denmark also, to get an estimate of what every single thing is sort of worth, so I could give that to the family and they could decide what to sell it for and so forth. Now, the family was super awesome. I mean, just the thought of his stuff that he had gathered and really poured his heart into, not only saving up and buying, but every component in his sort of setup were there for a reason. You know, I mean, if you're a hi-fi nut, you know what I'm talking about. You don't buy anything just half-assed. You do the research, you decide, and that decision is based on the rest of the components in your setup. And I was super bummed out about knowing that it was going to be split up. Now, I don't have all the money in the world, definitely not. But I wanted to have a chance to buy some of this equipment. I have a great setup, so I'm not in need of anything. I don't need a good setup to start with. I mean, this is a luxury, this is a hobby, this is a luxury, and I am blessed with having a very good sort of hi-fi system, in my opinion. So I didn't need more, but just the thought of them going to other homes was terrifying. So I asked the family if I could buy the speakers. Now the speakers, I don't know if you can see them over here, and maybe I'll talk about them later on down the line, doing an entire video about them, because they are really worth talking about. This is Tannoy, or Tannoy, I don't know how to pronounce that. XT8, I think they are called. They are pretty big speakers with the sort of the bass going down instead of back, as most speakers do. And they have them some sort of magnetic thingy, so that they have patented, and they have sort of built on this since the, I don't know, 40s or 60s or something like that. Technology way back. And I remember when he got them, he bought them from a store in Denmark. He got them shipped here. He got them for a great price, and they were new. I don't think that they make these anymore, so I don't think you can buy them new. But he managed to find a pair, but he didn't have room in the sort of the house that he was, or the apartment that he and his dad was living in at the time. He had to move some stuff around. So he actually drove them at my place. I had them for like 2 months, and I helped him to break in the speakers. So I had my amp on, and I played music like 24 hours a day for a month or 2 months or something like that, really breaking them in before he got them home. And I didn't have my setup this way back then, but I really appreciated them. They sounded good. They sounded better than my Focal that I had back then, or Focal. Definitely. I mean, no competition at all. But yeah. So he was super proud of his speakers. Maybe the component that he was most proud about, sound-wise, he talked about them, I think, every day. Like, something about them. He got in a conversation 5 days a week for like the 5 years maybe that he had them. So I got the opportunity to buy the speakers, and we agreed on a price, and now they are here, standing in front of me. And they are, so Lasse's speakers is part of my setup, my nice setup. So my Bucard went upstairs to a secondary sort of setup in the living room. Yeah, with my record player, my tube amplifier, the speaker cables that I also bought from the family. These are AudioQuest Rocket 88. the nicest Audio Quest speaker cables that there is, and these Tannoy. I have a sound that I've never heard before. I've heard it at Lasse's place, never heard it here. And when I heard it at Lasse's place, it was the best sort of audio experience I have ever heard. Bear in mind, I have sat in front of systems that costs $1 million, like those sort of systems with horn speakers that are the size of a half of a living room. And in my opinion, these sound better. Okay, now I'm talking shit here, but for the price, definitely they play way over their price. So that was nice. I'm so happy that the family and I could agree of a price, so I was able to buy them. He also had a record collection. He started to collect records again when I started work at I started at his job. But he had some crates from before at a storage, so he brought them home, and I think he had gathered like 800 records, something like that. So I couldn't afford everything because, I mean, I have bought collections and I never rip people off. I don't like ripping people off, but you can make better or worse deals, right, when you do buy entire collections. And I've never bought a collection where I feel like I didn't do a really good deal. But in this case, with him being my friend and knowing the family and with their situation and the father who's now alone, I wanted to give as much as I could. So I picked out maybe 350 maybe records that I bought from them. Some that I have already that I'm gonna change for the ones that I have and sell. I'm taking sort of the earliest copy or the nicest copy, and I'm selling the other one to finance this purchase. So that has been taking up some time. I obviously knew most of what he had, so I picked a lot of records that going into the collection that is to Lasse to me, like really, and I don't know, not to get too sappy with the whole thing. In my opinion, blending his collection in with my own collection makes him alive. I don't know if you know what I mean, but in one way he's still here behind me in these shelves. Now, in the beginning, I think I said that he had a CD collection. I mean, his sort of grown from the 90s, I guess, up till maybe 6 years ago. Or maybe 3 years ago, really, because he bought a lot of CDs when he was out traveling. He went to England at least once, to London at least once every year. He bought a lot of CDs. So he had a great CD collection. I knew that he had a lot of CDs, but he had played maybe 2 or 3 CDs. So I knew 2 CDs, and he had 3 shelves, one that looks like this and 2 that looks like this. So a lot of CDs. Now CDs doesn't cost that much, and the family didn't really know what to do with it, so I got them for a really good price also, and I wanted to get them all because I had no idea what I bought. I had no idea what was in there. The only thing I knew that I knew was that I was buying a part of Lasse, and with the CD collection, I think even more than the record collection, this is really the records that he has acquired during many years. These are the records that he has listened to more than the records. So I knew that just putting those shelves exactly like they are down in my basement in this listening room, I will get the best sort of representation of Lasse that I could ever imagine. Like, yeah, the only problem was I don't have a CD player. I don't play CDs. I don't have any CDs. Like, I have a few that I haven't really sort of bared to get rid of, but I don't have CDs. I don't play CDs. But Lasse played CDs, and just like the last time that we went to this store in Gothenburg, he had bought, and so we went there to pick it up. He had bought a really nice CD player for a fantastic price, and I was able to get it for the same price as Lasse had bought it for from the family. And this is a monster. So finally I have a great CD player, and that's an understatement, because the Shanling T1000 is a monster of a player. So when I hooked this up with my tube amp and the new speakers down here, and I open up the shelves, like starting to pull stuff out and playing them, I haven't really felt this in, I should say, like 20 years, maybe, something like that. 20, maybe over 20 years. It was like, you know, those first sort of steps into your own music identity when you break through. I don't know if you get what I mean, but I was sitting here, and the music that came from the speakers were like music heard from the first time. I played Thriller by Michael Jackson, a record that I've played thousands of times. I'm so sick of it, I didn't even think that I would ever play it again. I put that on, the 25th anniversary edition, gold CD. And what came out of the speakers were music that I had never heard before. The details from the sort of the instruments and the music, the sound stage, the 3D feel, the spot on sort of placement of every single sound. It's like nothing I have ever experienced before. And when I play a record, like a vinyl record, it's like that, but maybe 10% even more. Like those final sort of small details comes through. So sitting here down in the basement now, in my listening room, and listening to music now is like almost being reborn. And if I say that I knew 20% of the CDs that were or is in Lasse's CD collection, I would probably lie. I think it's less than 20% that I know of and that I have heard. So more than 80% of the records is music I have never heard about. He was a lot into punk, ska, reggae. He has a bit of jazz, but not much. He had more on record because I had a bad influence on him at the end, I think, the last years. So yeah, I think he had maybe 20 Madness CDs in different sort of constellations, and then he had probably 20 Madness LPs, different pressings and stuff like that. That's just typical Lasse. So I want to make this video because I want to honor my friend, and I want to tell you the sort of the background, because this is for real changing the way I listen to music now. This has been earth-shattering, because it sounds so damn good. It's insane. But obviously the stuff that goes into my own collection from Lasse's collection, I want to show before I file them. Just like I do with any sort of acquired records or sort of recent vinyl finds. And I haven't really decided if I'm going to do them separately or if I'm just going to do them like I do all my sort of my recent vinyl finds. But now, like at this point, I'm still going to buy records, I guess. But with the investment I have done now with the gear and the music, I will probably listen to mostly these records when it comes to new music, if you get what I mean. I mean, I have just the CDs here. I have stuff to listen to for many years ahead, it feels like. But there you go, that's the background of probably the recent vinyl finds to come. Part of it anyway. So yeah, experience that I wish I didn't were able to talk about, but yeah, life has its ways of just move along, I guess. And it sucks. I really miss my friend. I really miss my friend. And he had touched a lot of people. I know that he had a lot of friends that misses him immensely, and his family too, obviously. The best thing that from all of this with sort of the music, because that's the one thing that I'm mostly connected to when it comes to his family and his situation, is that his brother kept the record player, and I thought that was the most sort of the nicest thing. He had a pretty new record player, but he exchanged that for Lasse's, not only because it's a lovely record player and it sounds good, but it's also I guess some sort of an honor to have his turntable, the two brothers. So that was the best thing, in my opinion. We sat on the floor in his apartment going through his records. It was so surrealistic. It was just like maybe a month before I sat there and listened to records with Lasse, seeing him dance around in the room and I mean, change records. He had a pile that he had brought just for me to he wanted to flex his system, and now me and his brother are sitting on the floor like pulling stuff out from his collection to sort of give them value, like economical value, because if the family needs to know what's in there, and they don't have the interests as I have or we have in records, so obviously there's a economical value in them, but just pulling stuff from his collection was just so surrealistic. But then again, sitting there on the floor with his big brother, pulling stuff and hearing him talking about Lasse and the music, because he's also into music, but not necessarily the physical format. But he has some records, obviously. He kept the record player. Just sitting there, pulling stuff out from sort of their punk days, and saying like, and I pulled something that I knew Lasse really loved, and saying to Anders like, shit, this is really good. You have this? And he's like, no, I don't have it. So you should keep this. Like, keep this. To bring this home, play it. Like, and that was really nice, even if it felt super strange. So yeah, this is something that I hope I'll never have to do again. And yeah, I think I'll stop there. So now you know, and felt good to share, I think. So take care everyone, and I'll see you in my next Vinyl Finds video.